Hello, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch this presentation. My name is Elaine Wu, and the title of this presentation is Self-Directed Learners, Empowering Students to Own Their Learning. The topics that will be addressed in this presentation are: what is self-directed learning? Why is self-directed learning important? What are the elements of a self-directed learning model? What are the roles of teachers and students in the self-directed learning model? What characteristics do self-directed learners have? What are some of the challenges to implementing self-directed learning in the classroom? What can teachers do to encourage students to become self-directed learners? And what are some examples of self-directed learning in the classroom? So what is self-directed learning? Self-directed learning is a theory rooted in educator Malcolm Knowles' work on andragogy, or the study of adult education. In its broadest meaning, self-directed learning describes a process by which individuals take the initiative, with or without the assistance of others, in diagnosing their learning needs, formulating learning goals, identifying human and material resources for learning, choosing and implementing appropriate learning strategies, and evaluating learning outcomes. As the term suggests, self-directed learning, or SDL, views learners as responsible owners and managers of their own learning process. SDL integrates self-management, the management of the context including the social setting, resources, and actions, with self-monitoring, the process whereby the learners monitor, evaluate, and regulate their cognitive learning strategies. Sounds kind of complicated, and maybe like a lot of work. Why bother with SDL? Or in other words, why is SDL so great and important anyways? Teachers should always be striving for self-directed learning because it capitalizes on the role of choice and motivation in sparking interest and maintaining effort from students. It allows students to work at their own pace and make decisions based on their best interests. It helps students become more deliberate and effective learners. It helps cultivate desirable habits and characteristics including self-discipline, persistence, independence, and self-confidence. And it teaches students how to become lifelong learners. In case you weren't sure why it's so important for students to become lifelong learners, perhaps these words can help explain. I have no special talents. I am only passionately curious. Albert Einstein. The essential elements of self-directed learning are as follows. Students have control over as much of the learning experience as possible, or in other words, the learning is designed to be student-centered. There is an emphasis on skill development which promotes productive activity to allow students to think and execute independently. Students are challenged initially by teachers, but ideally and ultimately by themselves. Students are expected to self-manage their own learning enterprises. Students motivate and assess their own efforts by setting goals, monitoring their progress, and self-motivating themselves through their successes. Here we have a highlight which highlights some of the defining characteristics and elements of self-directed learning and provides some examples for what each of those elements might look like. As mentioned in the previous slide, self-directed learning places a high emphasis on getting students to take ownership of their learning, figure out ways to extend their learning, and to learn how to manage and monitor their own learning. What are the roles of teachers and students in a self-directed learning model? Self-directed learning is meant to be a collaborative process. The student must have the initiative to learn the material, and the teacher must provide adequate support and resources for learning. Teachers should make students aware of their role in their education and encourage each student to take control in their learning. Teachers must support students in their learning process by providing opportunities for feedback and discussion so students don't feel like they are working on their own. Teachers scaffold the process by making learning visible. They model learning strategies and work with students so that they develop the ability to use them on their own. Here we have the 4 stages of the self-directed learning model. You can think of this model as a type of spectrum which shows the inverse relationship between teacher instruction and authority and student self-direction and independence. In Stage 1, when student independence is still quite low, it is necessary for a teacher to step in as an authority coach and try and teach his or her students the information and skills that they may be lacking. However, as students progress their way through the different stages and become increasingly interested and invested in their own learning, a teacher's role is able to change from being a dispenser of knowledge into a facilitator of learning, until finally, in Stage 4, students are fully self-directed and teachers can act merely as consultants or experts that students can refer to. While there are certainly times when teachers need to act as any of the roles stated in Stages 1 through 3, in a self-directed learning model, the ultimate goal is to have students achieve Stage 4 and direct their learnings almost entirely independently. The following are some of the characteristics commonly found in self-directed learners. Self-directed learners know how to take initiative, are self-confident and comfortable with independence, are persistent, accept responsibility and understand how to self-reflect and assess, have fundamental study skills, view problems as challenges, not as obstacles, or in other words, they have a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset. They have a high degree of curiosity and a strong desire to learn or change. They are goal-oriented, and they have time management skills and are capable of self-discipline. What can teachers do to encourage self-directed learning? They can make it so that their classroom is a safe place to fail. This means that students know it is okay and even encouraged for them to make mistakes, as it is all an important part of the learning process. They can encourage curiosity and empower students through their words and actions. They can use tiered responsibility, or the idea of show me, help me, and then let me. They can foster peer support among students. Model how to learn, in other words, show students their approach and process for learning something new. They can teach students how to set manageable goals, reward effort and not just skill. They can plan ahead for potential challenges and help students work around them. They can teach students how to overcome disappointment and persist in the face of obstacles. They should provide multiple opportunities for meaningful reflection and feedback. They should learn how to accept and embrace the mess that comes with the learning process. And last but not least, they should believe in their students' abilities. Now that we've discussed what self-directed learning is, including some of its key elements, the roles that students and teachers must play in this type of learning model, as well as some of the challenges that may be faced when trying to implement it in the classroom, allow me to try and tie it all together for you by providing some examples of what SDL can look like in the classroom. A great way teachers can provide an authentic, self-directed learning experience for their students is by assigning engineering design projects where students are given a design challenge, for instance, having to fold a paper airplane that can travel the greatest distance, and then giving them the time, space, and resources to figure out on their own the best materials, design, and process to create their final products. Another great way is to present students with a compelling topic, for instance, climate change, child labor, or indigenous rights, and then have them come up with questions on their own that they would like to research and find the answers to. And finally, well-designed and well-organized learning centers are another great way that can provide students with authentic and meaningful self-directed learning experiences. Again, I would like to thank you for taking the time to watch my presentation on self-directed learning. I hope you were able to find this presentation informative, or perhaps even better yet, have it inspire you to create your own self-directed learning experience by researching more on this worthwhile topic. Before we close, I would like to leave you with these two following quotes. Self-direction in learning is a way of life. All the world is my school, and all humanity is my teacher. Thank you once again, and wishing you all a most wonderful day.